goes up on the side, bunny hop. So before this race I had about 200 milligrams of caffeine, and I had eyes on the back of my head, the side of my head. I was absolutely wired prior to this race. Now I never drink caffeine, never really have it, so when I take it I really feel the effects, and today, oh my gosh, I could just see everywhere. I was so alert, it was unbelievable. Now in this race today, it's my first road race. So this was the Venta Road Race at the Littleton Circuit 2023. I'm with my teammate Chris, and yeah, I did not know what to expect really, apart from maybe a couple of hours of pure hell. Now this video won't be a couple of hours long because this is the highlight video. I have posted, or will post, the full race if you want to watch, and on the trainer to watch that. But this race was 42 miles, 5.5 laps of the Littleton Circuit hosted by VC Venta, and my first road race. So in my head I just wanted to try and get around it. I think it's like my second or third race of the year. The week before this I got dropped on a chain gang after 2 laps, and I had no confidence going into this race, but I thought, you know what, if I can just stick to people's wheels I might be able to get there. So my goal today was just to try and stick on people's wheels. If I see points where I could move up, take it, so I can get further up the field so I don't end up off the back, because I know if I get dropped off or behind the back of the peloton a little bit, that will probably be me done. So that was my goal today. Now in the bottom left hand corner you can see my heart rate is at 187. Now I normally have a high heart rate, it's totally normal. If you see me under 180, then I am fully recovered. You should basically, if you ever look at my heart rate, base it on that. I have a high heart rate. But do I ever see 180 below? Never. Hardly ever in this race did I. So yeah. So at this moment, this is like the first straight. We started like halfway around the course, so it was 7.5 laps. So yeah, and I did recce the course a couple of days prior, and so I had a bit of an advantage going around to the corners and stuff like that. So let's get to the first corner. It's just coming up. Here we are. So coming up on the left is the first corner of the race after that long first drag, and I knew it was going to be a sprint out of here, so I was fully prepared in my mind. I managed to get a bit of coasting in prior, but it was kind of a full gas effort coming up here. I didn't want to try and go overly hard. I just wanted to find a wheel I could stick on ASAP. Coming down here was a little bit of a headwind, but you know what, it was a bit of a descent as well, which was really handy. So at this point my heart rate 193, and the first couple of laps of this race is pretty hellish. I think one of the guys who had been racing Nat B races and other national races and stuff like that had said about the first half an hour of this race was pretty much the pace of a national B race. So yeah, so it was very hard going straight at the start. Let's get to the bottom of this hill and to the next corner. So at the end of this straight we are coming to the bottom, coming into the village of Crawley, I think it was. Just touched 40 mile an hour, just scrubbing on the brakes a bit because it was really easy to gain on people down the hill with the drafting effect. And we're into a straight corner with another instant rise out of it, and this was a really steep rise, so I was quite prepared to give it the berries on this one, and up to 1,000 watts this time. And I managed to get past a few people up here, and you can see Chris there climbing his way back to me like a rat up a drain pipe. And we get over the crest of this hill, and I'm doing 600 watts and 700 watts and losing the wheel. People absolutely gunned it down this bit, and I thought, oh my god, how can I be doing like this amount of effort and losing? Because I was giving it absolutely everything over the top of that hill, and I lost a few wheels there, and a huge gap opened up whilst I was doing 700 watts. So I'm thinking at this point I need to try and creep up, hopefully, because I can't allow a gap like that open up again so soon. And I felt like I was kind of near the back of the peloton. I wasn't too sure. Because the lanes were quite thin, it was kind of hard to judge where you were, because obviously I wasn't looking around, because on the other side of the road you've got cars and stuff. So I try and work my way up in this area. You can see Chris behind me tagging along my wheel. And I'm thinking, I need to move up, but I'm just boxed in everywhere here. So this part here was the start-finish line straight, So halfway around the course. So don't know whether to say this is the start of the lap or not, but yeah, this was like a 7.5 lap race. So the guy on the right there, I'm thinking, right, I need to try and move up on that faster pace line. And I get onto the wheels here, and I'm trying to get up there. The guy stands up, and behind me, I think Chris ends up getting a bit boxed in, and he loses my wheel. And obviously, there's a bit of a gap behind me now there. So I think when I was doing 195 heart rate, I can only imagine the effort he's trying to put in there, trying to get back to me. That was hell. Anyway, let's get down this straight and to the next corner, since Chris has caught me up. Now, just coming towards the last corner, not the last corner, the third corner, one thing I want to point out was there was absolutely barely any potholes on this course. When I recce'd the course, I kept an eye out for them because I didn't trust people to point them out. And I couldn't find any apart from a huge drain manhole cover on this corner here. So I was aware of that. I thought hopefully I'll be able to get around a few people here. So as I come round, managed to go up slightly just wider because I knew it was on the inside, and then get around a few people. So I was quite happy with that because I think some people got caught out. Now that guy up there, who was with the army, he gave me a really interesting tip at the start of this race, and that was the race won't be won within the first 20 minutes. So in my head I was thinking, right, I've got 20 minutes, and as long as I can stay here for the first 20 minutes, then I'm going to be happy. If any breaks go away, I don't really have to, they don't have to be at the forefront of my mind. Not that I was going to be able to get in any breaks, because in my opinion my fitness wasn't there prior to this race, but I just thought that's good to know, because if I can just keep making these selection points up these little hills and stuff, and try and stick with that front group that were just slightly ahead of me there, if I can keep with that front group, then I should be able to be there at the end of the race. Anyway, let's get to the next corner. So coming up to the roundabout on the left turn here, and that is all the corners of this race done. So you're familiar with all the corners in this race now. Chris is behind me. We're kind of near the back of the peloton, and yeah, at least we have both survived the first lap. So yeah, we made it around the first lap. Let's get a bit deeper into the race. We're 40 minutes into the race, and this had been tough going. I knew it physically, and it shows up on the stats. So my normalised power was 297 at this point, and that is above my FTP by quite a way at the moment. So I was just happy to be there still, very happy with that. Now at this point here, 40 minutes in, two riders on the left and GS Moser guys let a gap open up between the following two GS Moser guys, and I'm thinking, oh no, you sneaky gits. And I was on the wrong side of the split, so I'm thinking to myself, right, I cannot let that go, because it's another little selection point. They appear in the races at random moments, and you can see the guy behind me from GS Moser on my wheel just as I bring him back. But I'm guessing he would have done no work, because he knew what he was up to by trying to split us all up. So I'm doing 37 mile an hour trying to get back to them. So so yeah, it was an effort, and it was quick at times, this race, but I managed to make it back, thank God. So about 10 minutes later, we're coming up this hill. There's a van on the right hand side parked up to let us through, and people squeeze in, and what happens? Bang! People hit the deck, and I was like, oh no. And I know what happens in races. People sprint off if they're ahead of a crash. And you can see behind me, I was in not a good position to be getting back to it. I was right at the back of the peloton at this point, and I thought, oh no. So this guy comes through, and I'm thinking to myself, right, there's no way I can chase everything down on my own. Get onto one of these wheels ASAP, and hopefully they can drag me up. I noticed the army guy there on the left. I know he was a strong rider because he'd been strong up to this point in the race. So I'm thinking to myself, right, this lad here in front of me, he can carry me back to these guys. So I get onto his wheel, and yeah, it was tough going at this point. I don't know why I'm out in the wind here. Maybe I was thinking I could sprint onto the wheel of the army guy, and I think it does cross my mind to get past him, but he was kind of half wheeling me at that point. So I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna get back in, sit there. If it slows down, I'll try and go past him, but let's let him carry me back. So about 30 seconds later, that little angel on the left has brought us back, And I'm thinking, right, let's just get stuck in the middle of this bunch so I can be protected and try and recover. So I'm below 180 beats a minute, recovering nicely, and bam, another little accident happens. Guy bunny hops to the side. I'm thinking I'm about to get taken out. Luckily I didn't, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, wow, I can't actually believe that my heart rate stays at 178 and didn't spike up all of a sudden, because it felt like my heart jumped out of my mouth. In a case of slow motion. Yeah, that was a tough one, but a very skillful bunny hop. Check it out. Goes up on the side, bunny hop, and I thought he was going to make it, but no, he didn't. Yeah, shame. His name is Pat, and I've been speaking to him on Facebook this week, and he was okay with me to share that crash. He suffered from a bit of concussion, and I think he's torn some cartilage around his shoulder. But he said, thankfully, that his skin suit was okay, so great news. I know how expensive they can be, but yeah, get well soon, Pat. Hope you make a speedy recovery, and we get to race together soon. Anyway, let's get a bit deeper into the race. So we are ammo in, and I am being dropped, and at this point I was gutted. The car was behind me, and I was like, no, please no, I don't want to leave this race now. And I was absolutely shot to bits at this point. And I was thinking, this is race over. I'm doing 300 watts. My quads were absolutely burning. The lactic acid build up. But there's a rider coming up behind me. Now, I didn't know this at the time. I just saw the big car out the corner of my eye. But he comes straight round me here. And as he comes round me, he pulls straight in front of me. Angel number 2. I think it might actually be the same guy as before, you know. So I sit on his wheel. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm really hoping he can take me back. So this was a bit of a downhill here. And I'm thinking, right, I need to try and recover. And I felt a little bit easier. I can still see the peloton in the distance. And I'm doing about 150 watts, and I'm feeling good. So I managed to get round him. And I could see the peloton were kind of coasting. And thankfully, I make it back up to them. And I was so happy at this point. I couldn't quite believe it, and there you go, straight back up 300 or 400 watts there, just getting on the back of them again. But I was so happy. But look, it was only about 2/3 into the race, and probably about another 40-45 minutes left. So the question is, do I make it to the end? Let's find out. And that was the bell, the final lap. I somehow made it to the final lap. And at this point, I was absolutely buzzing. In my head, I thought to myself, I've made it to the last lap. There's absolutely no way I can get dropped on this last lap. The adrenaline was pumping, and I was absolutely buzzing. Almost a bit emotional on the inside, if I'm being totally honest, because I thought to myself, damn, a few months ago I had that testicular cancer. A couple of weeks ago I got dropped on a chain gang, and I've somehow made it to the last lap of my first road race. So I was absolutely over the moon at this point, and I was thinking, right, I'm just going to try and stay calm, and let's see what we've got for the end, because I thought maybe this will be a slow lap with everyone trying to save their energy for the last couple of hills. But before we get there, before I wind it on, if you've enjoyed this video so far and you're happy that I made the last lap, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give this video a big thumbs up in support. Because yeah, I hope you like this racing content. Anyway, let's wind on. Now we are flying down the final big descent into that little village where that sharp corner is, 40 mile an hour, and I was really hoping to try and get past people here, but doing 40 mile an hour and depending on other riders around you being maybe a bit nervous and sketchy, I just couldn't commit myself to it. So I thought, right, let's give it a good bit of go up here. Let's try and stick with people. And yeah, it was another big effort. After 100 minutes in, doing 700-800 watts felt like well over 1,000 in my legs. And then coming onto this downhill bit, I was thinking, right, I need to try and get on a wheel that's going to take me to the top. The only problem in my head though at this point was that I was on the other side of the road, and I know that was allowed, but with it being a road race, there had been cars coming along this road. So in my head, I wasn't sure whether at the top cars had stopped, because I didn't want to fly around a corner and then be going on head onto a car. So I was kind of doing this a bit blind, and I felt a bit unsafe. So we're coming up to the final sprint, and I was well out of position here. And yeah, this is the final sprint. Everyone starts kicking up, I think, around about now-ish. It was a long hill, but I knew I wasn't going to get there, and people were fanned out everywhere, so I kind of just dropped back, let them crack on, and if anyone came off, I made sure there was enough gap for me to be able to get around it. But luckily no one came down in the sprint or anything like that, because it did feel a bit sketchy at the time. And yeah, and I rolled across the line. Well, I would say at the back of the bunch, kind of dropped at the bunch at the very last minute, but yeah, I wasn't going to contest that sprint. So yeah, it's my first road race, pure hell, pure carnage. This was my power data. So normalized power 279 by the end of the race. So dropped off about 20 watts by then, and I think we did about 25 mile an hour. I do not know what that is in kilometers an hour. I'm just working in mile an hour, just like my car does. So yeah, but yeah, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll be back for some more road races in the Oxfordshire Road Race series that's coming up in the spring, summer. And yeah, shall see you guys soon. Take care.